Welcome to the Bytecode. I'm your Shafu, and today's episode is with Mario, who's the founder of Revert. And yeah, as I've said to Mario before we started recording this, I'm a big fan of the product. I had a LP position on Uniswap that wasn't doing really well, and I moved over to Revert, and moving it in range and the auto compound feature is something I found pretty cool. So yeah, Mario, thanks for taking the time, man.
Thanks for the invite, Chapman. Yeah, I love to hear that you're using the product, of course. Like when you started saying this, I immediately jumped into partly trying to interview you as a user and figure out like, oh, you're using auto move range, okay. And then the second part is me sort of explaining how I look at these tools, right? And yeah, as I was saying, I think the way we've thought about revert originally was started out because I needed a tool myself to like I had like an Excel sheet and was keeping tab of my different LP position. This was like in DeFi summer 2020, and it was just obvious that it could be better. Like it could be all the data was on the blockchain and so started seemed like a good excuse to start playing around with like what we call Web3, right? And uh, but really, it wasn't like it wasn't, and it's evolved in a way that I don't think we're super intuitive to very new users. Like if you're just like diving into DeFi, like you just installed some wallet because a friend told you should get into this, and then your next experience is, okay, I'm gonna try using Revert to provide liquidity. I would say this is probably not the tool for you, right? But on the other hand, like if it's someone like you who had experience, like we're using, what was providing liquidity to Uniswap previously, then I think you're more likely to appreciate what we're building, right? Which is very data intensive. It sort of like assumes um, that you sort of like understand concepts like that are not super intuitive, like divergence loss or impermanent loss, is sometimes it's called, and then things like the auto move range. That can seem okay. I'm just going to automate this thing, but it can be well, that could be a very bad decision, right? Like depending on what fundamentally, and this is something I try to explain always, and this comes from talking to a lot of users. Liquidity providers on Uniswap, and I think even more so on Uniswap V3, like the ones that use revert at least, are fundamentally traders, and that's how they're thinking about liquidity. Like it's much closer to folks trading with leverage on a perfect exchange than it is, depositing it to Lido or to Aave. Right? It's fundamentally you can whatever you decide can have like real implications in your return, which can be very negative. And this is where everything works, fine as expected, right? Versus like if you with a like a yield protocol, you expect to maybe like don't not get as good as yield as you would want it, and the worst case, like the protocol has some issue, but that's like the unexpected and something not that you should fundamentally should not happen, right? But you never expect to have like a negative return out of depositing USDC on Aave. So that like and a lot of people are trying to build like a with DeFi mechanisms to try to make it one click and so, and it's great that we can build that stuff. I don't Having talked to users, I don't see that like the current uh, liquidity providers on those items want that. I think they want more powerful tools to understand and sort of like help them automate whatever strategy they're trying to execute using AML piece. That was
Yeah.
that was quite a lot. So sorry for hi, my name is Mario. That's my intro.
No, that was great, man. No, I agree. It seems like if you go to the Uniswap page, I think it's pretty complicated. Even for like people like us, who live on chain. It's not that easy to figure out. You get that diagram, you sort of need to play around with like min max. You don't really get where you need to put it. It's I think the wrong abstraction here. And but actually, a question I have is when I go to the revert finance page, right? When I create a position, does this automatically include like the in-range feature and stuff like that? Because okay, no, okay.
No, yeah, it's and we should probably make it more of like a wizard with several steps with sort of like that. I think that's like Figma design somewhere where we just haven't really prioritized it, but fundamentally it creates a position, and then when you go to a dashboard, there's no difference from a position you created through our UI in Revert um, versus a position you created on Uniswap. You'll see both, and
Mm.
you couldn't even tell the difference of which is, unless like you sort of like inspect the transactions and see which contracts were used, but otherwise it is like in the end, like the final state, it is fundamentally the same, right? A
Mm.
position on the Uniswap, or like we have other dexes now, but a position on the AMM pool.
I think what would be super dope is like one click to, to auto compound and have the in-range feature. You create a position and you get that all included in one transaction.
Yeah, uh, yeah. I mean, it's doable in some way. It's also like I don't know, like we would have to like sort of test it with users because there is at some like if you want to maximize the users who actually finish the goal of creating a position, and then the more steps you add, like the probably like like the actual position creators might go down. But I think like also like that if you're in mainnet still, I think wanting to do everything in one transaction is very important because it's slow because it needs to be slow and also expensive, right? But like right now we're testing some new features on base and they sort of require you to like in a multi-step do a few transactions and okay, like clicking one time is obviously nicer, right? But sort of like as users of Ethereum, we're already um uh sort of like accustomed to like approving a talk, so it's not. And if you do it in a UI, and I think for example, like I was looking at the Velodrome UI, Airdrome UI, and they have like this little nice they require like unstaking, and they have like this little nice little steps, right? And if
Yeah.
the transactions confirm fast and it's relatively cheap, and you're gonna do this, once every few days, perhaps, I think it's not a terrible trade-off as it used to be, right?
Mm.
Like someone who remembers, as you like when there was only mainnet, and then I'm gonna have to make 3 transactions. It's gonna cost me like $25. I'm gonna be here
Yeah.
15 minutes. I think it's gotten better, but ultimately, sure. Ultimately, if you want like the like the ultimate UX, you just create one transaction. But yeah, it's a trade-off with making it simple as fast as possible for like most users and maximizing the actual positions created versus adding like a bunch of stuff because like selecting like the auto move range, there's different parameters you could set and like and it probably I would assume it like duplicate the position creation time. Um, but but yeah, like it's something we need to test out and perhaps do it in a way where, for example, right now we have as the part of creating a position, you can backtest whatever parameters you select, right? Like I want to provide ETH USD between 3,000 and 4,000, and you can back, and that takes quite a while because it then loads like the historic data to like run the backtesting algorithms. And what we quickly realized is that we had to make that as like an optional additional step, right? So you can, as a bunch of users do, but sometimes like users don't really want to backtest. Like sometimes like some of our users love providing liquidity on airdrops, like the day of the airdrop,
Mm.
which is like insane. So there's no backtesting possible there, and some insane volatility, and they want to be in as quickly as possible. So sometimes you gotta like I found that like talking to users and like hearing their reasons helps in making those trade-offs that you just gotta make, right?
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of questions here. So first of all, I totally get your point, but I think if you have a user on Revert, someone opens up Revert Finance, I think he wants these features. You know, I think he specifically, so as I've understand it, it's basically like the create pool page, the create provide liquidity page is basically just another front end to Uniswap. It's the same thing. It's just different in like it's calling the same thing as the Uniswap front end.
Yeah, I mean some like niceties, so you can like create a position on any price range, and you don't have to have like even the tokens in the pool. You can just have it, for example, and create a for
Okay.
USDC, and then I'll
Okay.
swap it. But like yeah, but fundamentally, in the end result of transacting on that page and finishing, that steps is to create a position that will be fundamentally the same as a Uniswap position.
Okay,
Like
I
it
see.
will be
So
a
you
Uniswap position actually.
okay, so you
Um,
have some sort of router in the middle that does some UX improvements, auto swapping or something,
yeah,
which is really nice.
if required, it does that. Yeah,
Nice, nice, nice. Uh, I don't know, like me as Shafu as the user, I was surprised by it. I was like, okay, I moved over my LP position. Now I want to create a new pool with all the cool features. And the thing is maybe that's my problem. I'm like a L1. I'm still on L1. Basically, I do all the
yeah,
stuff on L1. And you know the gas fees when you see it like $70 or something, you're like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
maybe not. But yeah, on L2, you're totally right. Doesn't make any difference, basically.
I mean, it is a bit more annoying to transact 2 or 3 times versus one, right?
Sure.
Even on L2s, but it's usable. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying though. Like on mainnet, if you have to transact 3 times instead of one, that's significant, right? With your time
Yeah.
as well as your dollars. Um, yeah. I mean, what you're suggesting is, of course, doable, right? Like, it's fundamentally possible, I believe. But it will require, like, thinking how to do it. Um, but yeah, I think you can sort of like make it work. Like, you can sort of like hide those additional features, or not hide them, but like show them like a breach, and then if the users want to set them up, like they'll do it,
Yeah.
but those who don't can move forward. It's interesting. I'll send you some of our figmas and see what you think
Yeah, man.
if you
Please,
have them.
please, please. Second of all, before I forget, the guy who did the Aerodrome UI is a fucking genius.
Nice.
That UI is insane. It's insanely
Yeah.
good. Actually, like the next thing I'm building, I'm copying that UI.
Hmm.
It's like the shows exactly what happens. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
I also enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, let's get a little bit technical now. And okay, let's say I have an NFT in my wallet that represents the LP on Uniswap. Okay, what happens now? I want to enable, I don't know, I want to enable the compound feature. What happens exactly?
So you can set like it follows like the NFT or something, but with like numbers, like remembering. But anyway, it allows you as NFT collections can to set any account as an operator, and then what that basically gives that operator complete access to the reposition. They can withdraw liquidity, do whatever. Um, so if you were set to, if you were to set this operator to someone's like wallet, someone's account, um, they would be able to do anything, right? But if you set the operator to a smart contract, then it can only do what the smart contract, is written to allow to do, right? So, for example, for auto compound, you basically set as operator one of our contracts along with a config that allows it that activates whatever you decide, right? So in that case, it'll say activate auto compounding as opposed to auto range or like auto exit or the other features. And then so anyone can execute a transaction, like I can call a function on that operator contract that if the parameters are met will execute the auto compound, which basically is like the operator contract will withdraw liquidity, swap into the correct amounts required to like add the liquidity back into the position, and then the whoever called that function takes a 1% fee for like for like the as incentive for running that transaction, and then 1% is kept by uh, the contract, the protocol.
Quick question here. Do you guys call it yourself or do you actually have like outside people who call it for the incentive?
No, we call it ourselves.
Okay.
I think like I think it like definitely the goal. Probably not on this version of the contract because we're still realizing we need to change a few things for the next version. Even like so, I think eventually it makes sense to have this be a market where anyone can execute. But right now it's set so only our own bots can execute. And then for things that are and that's also not like for things that are more commonly used, like for example for liquidating, we have like a lending protocol that allows users to collateralize LP positions, and for like the liquidations there, any like we ran a bot and that's already running, and other people are actually liquidating more. I think it's certainly more critical to have like a lot of sort of like redundancy in those type of liquidators where the whole protocol needs to get liquidated or the whole protocol goes underwater, right? And with things like auto compound, we feel like okay, it's not as crucial. It allows us to sort of like to evolve more quickly, and then I think probably next version or a couple of versions we'll start thinking we'll start like making it available for any, like publishing the bots, basically allowing any other account to run this stuff, which is part of like the centralizing the protocol, I think.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, what I wanted to ask as well is like, obviously this is like very data intensive. First of all, you need to monitor. You basically need to like once you enable the auto compound feature or the in range feature, you basically have to monitor that NFT, right? You need to monitor that LP position. So you have that, then you have the backtesting feature, you have all the data on the front end. Uh, how does that look in the back end? Like managing all that. You must have like at least some infra to manage all the monitoring and stuff.
Sure. So like the first, so we use a couple of like mainly we use the subgraphs to like read
Mm,
and process the blockchain data, and then we have like a second system, like a second layer system, which is our backend and a traditional database that like fetches the relevant information from those subgraphs,
mm,
and uh, so that's mostly and that requires like so that gives you like the current state of any position regarding any action they take, like adding liquidity or withdraw liquidity. They're all like events basically that we process in close to real time and have and then the other thing, like the other component you need to like to compute like the real state of a position is like the pool price. So that we fetch in real time from the pool contract as you load a position. Uh, yeah, it's we've also been testing Shadow, which is like an alternative to like you probably used this, and it's fundamentally very cool. Like I think it well it always allows more flexibility with regards to adding data that's not available in the current event set, which is what the software allow you to get. So that's been helpful in a recent project. But yeah, I think it is like we have like a serious focus on a back end that's sort of like a data pipeline and that it ends up in a database. We're not like adapting in that sense, right?
mm,
We're very very much more closer to a web like to any you know uh, website or web app
mm,
in that area. Like we have a thing called raw mode. Like if the subgraphs are down and if our backend is down, you can always check raw mode, which is our front end JavaScript loads a subset of the data we show, obviously not a complete set on chain, and that's like that mode, right? But that's not that's definitely not what users are coming to us for, right? They want to see the full data.
Interesting. Have you ever heard of Ponder?
I don't remember right now.
Ponder is a great tool to basically dump smart contract data into a database.
Interesting.
It's really awesome. Like, let me see if I can share my screen actually. Um, yeah, it's an awesome tool. Like, before this came out, um, I wrote like a couple of indexers from scratch myself. And writing an indexer is not a trivial task. So this was amazing when it came out. It basically hooks into your events, and once an event is triggered, you can basically dump anything into your database. It's really, really cool. So highly recommended for anyone who needs to write an indexer.
Interesting.
Basically, if you need to sort smart contract data into a database, try out Ponder. It's really cool. It's a recommendation from my side.
No, interesting. Appreciate it. Already taken note.
Yeah, once we're sharing my screen, let's look at Revert. Let's look at the web app itself, which is interesting. Okay, so this is what I meant, right? Like, put in an auto compound button or something. I would love that. Like, okay, I want a new position. Let's auto compound it from the start.
Right.
Um, but yeah, this is what you see when you have an LP position, which is really cool. Let's see, like compound, activate auto compounding. This should already have auto compounding. Just kind of move a range. Okay.
It seems like your screen froze, or I'm not.
Oh, my internet connection is probably pretty bad. Can you see
Um,
this better now?
well, I just see the create position page.
Oh, you still see that? Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Germany right now and the internet sucks. So,
Oh, really?
so maybe, maybe, okay, maybe it's. But what I was trying to tell, like the compound feature, um, the compound feature triggers when you're out of range, right? It doesn't, or is it actually called automatically at some point?
Yeah, so basically the way that it gets called automatically, it shouldn't. I mean, the thing is, you're out of range is that your fees are not growing, so it's unlikely that it would get executed, but it could technically. So what happens is the bots know that they can take 1% of any fees they collect and compound, right? And if they calculate what the gas cost of doing that would be, right? Like an approximation. And if the gas cost is more than 1% of the uncollected fees, then it won't execute because it will lose money. And it should be relatively quickly though. Like once your fees grow to that point, it should be like maybe less than it should be less than 3 minutes for sure. To the point where it gets executed. The thing is like the bot they sort of like predict how your fees are growing and when they expect them to reach, and then check back. So if it expects that your position might reach that point in less than an hour, like it'll check back more often. The thing is, um, fee growth isn't linear. So it assumes that the fee growth is linear, but it never is, and it's quite drastically not. Like you'll have just 1 day or 1 hour where like the fees are truly roof, and then they go back. So it's not as perfect. I mean, it's not completely instant because of that. But like I think executed like auto compounding, like once you go auto compounding a position, every 3 minutes, you're like the advantage of doing it more frequently would be, I think, quite marginal, mostly more realistic scenarios.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. What's next for Revert? Tell me what's next.
So we sort of like been over the past 3 months testing this lending protocol, right? And the basic idea is it's a very simple thing, but it's just like if you had if you have the ERC20s, you have say like ETH and WBTC, and you have like you're capable with DeFi to do a bunch of things, but fundamentally, real cool, you're able to take up a loan against them, right? To use an Aave, and or you can use them to get yield in different protocols, and then like or provide liquidity, for example, right? And it fundamentally makes no sense that you should lose the ability to take out a loan with that capital as collateral because it's in a liquidity pool, right? You still own it, like there's no you can sort of like automate all the necessary steps with the collateral, including liquidation when necessary. Um, having that's sort of like a thing we thought like, okay, this we want to use it, right? And it makes obvious sense that it should exist, and it's not a newfangled protocol that is super excited. It's something in a way pretty basic or the most fundamental perhaps DeFi protocol aside from swapping, which is lending and so we decided to do this lending protocol. And basically, if you have, it's like it's a shared pool risk. So we only allow, safe, really safe assets, sort of like 9 assets that are now live on Arbitrum, which is the only network which we've deployed so far. And you can, if you have position that where both those assets are in the valid set, you can take out a loan. You can use the loan to leverage up, which is more exciting. Um, but we realized, one important feature to make this actually work by talking to LPs is everyone will tell you, yeah, sure, I would love to be able to take out a loan. Like, why not, right? But they were all very clear. But I don't want to. If I'm gonna, I don't want to be able. I don't want to like lose the ability to move range from my position. I don't want to be locked because my time frame for this position is whatever, like 1 week or 1 month. But the loan perhaps is like a 6 month. So the design goal was to make it as simple as possible, but allow LPs that collateralize their positions to sort of like completely keep full management of them. Right? They can move range manually. They can out the range. They can out the company, whatever, as long as they don't withdraw liquidity to the point where the loan will become unhealthy. And we've been testing in Arbitrum. It's been live for 3 months. It's I think we just passed like we are around like 3 million TBL at the moment, and we sort of like and like then what's next is I think deploying that for sure on a few more networks. So it's we're still like in preparation for that. Will be also like this year will be like our focus, like sort of like the end of the year wrap up meeting was like we'll agree that our focus next year is to fundamentally expand. Like we've been really focused on like the Uniswap V3 protocol, even though it has some forks, but it's fundamentally that. And as we plan for the year, like Uniswap V4 is coming, which we're super excited about. Like there's a lot more surfaces to build stuff for, and it probably requires even more sort of like analytics that help you make the relevant decisions. But also there's like a bunch of interesting AMM protocols that we haven't had the chance to integrate, and that we look forward to sort of like focus on that like horizontal growth and supporting more protocols. We think we validated that uh, like there's a need for like good analytic tools to help you manage liquidity, and there's like additional services and tools those type of users could use, and sort of we want to sort of like start thinking about how do we grow by extending to other AMMs.
Really interesting, man. Yeah. Listen, good luck. As I've said in the beginning, I'm a big fan of the product. Talking about V4, could you build like an auto compounding feature as a hook?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can build anything. I think so the yeah, I mean it's hard to like I just like treat how you would implement, right? But basically um you can, for example, maybe this is a very naive way to do it, but the point is like after a swap, for example, where fees are distributed, you can do whatever distribution you could. I think like the real technical thing is how to make that gas efficient. because if you do like the naive thing of like, okay, now distribute the 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 fees back to the position of each one, like that wouldn't make sense, right? But fundamentally, yeah, you could. I think Uniswap before will for sure change everything with regards to like the type of tools we built for V3. I think um, it'll probably start because there's like the vanilla pools, or I know that's like the term they're using, but basically the hookless pools, and those are pretty close to like if you ignore all the like the niceties of like how tokens are set, like basically in a way that the interface for a liquidity provider, the decisions we have to make are very very much the same as they would be for V3. So it'll probably start off looking quite similar, and I assume most liquidity will be on those pools. But it just allows you to build anything, right? So I'd be surprised if that, yeah, things um like everything we've already seen in AMS could probably implement, like different corps could be implemented on with using the hooks, and I think, yeah, things like automation, like one we're excited about is for this lending protocol, for and it's one of the basic things I'm sure will be used quite a lot. Um, so for this lending protocol right now, like one side of the lending market, the people taking out the loans, there are users, right? They're liquidity providers, they're already are users. But the other side, who's people depositing USDC, is a little bit tricky. Like we advertise it, and some of them can be our users, but also there's a lot of people who want to deposit USDC, and like they want to get yield on USDC, are definitely not providing liquidity. It's a different subset of users, right? And perhaps you have users that have USDC, but they're like providing liquidity with it, and they're not looking for like a 5% return on USDC, or whatever it is. But with a hook, like a very simple one is, okay, if like you have a liquidity position and it's some stable coin and it's out of range, then you can withdraw the liquidity, and add it to like a lending protocol like revert lend. And then before like the position goes back into range, if it does, withdraw the liquidity from the lending protocol and put it back. So I think that type of that type of like basic functionality it is will be, I think, very easy to integrate with the existing protocols in DeFi. So just that is terribly exciting. But I think I think probably there'll be a bunch more interesting stuff for sure, and there'll be some failed experiments, I assume, like but it'll be fun nonetheless.
Very cool, man. No, super excited about what you're gonna build next. I think it's pretty cool already, but always space to build something new. And yeah, Uniswap V4, super exciting for sure. Any other dexes that you wanna integrate?
Sure, like we would like for us, it's like a point of how do we prioritize. Like,
Mm,
but ideally, would have like everything integrated. Um, but like there's interesting stuff like coming about. Like I think with regards to before, like there's another like people building hooks. We're probably gonna integrate those hooks, right? So
mm,
I'm excited. For example, the guys at Charm are building an interesting hook protocol that you should talk to them about. And and there's things like Instant App is building Fluid. Like I think the space is gonna get very interesting with regards to like new ideas being tested out. Because the hooks allow for that, and then but there's incentives for other AMS to like there's always been, right? But I think it's still gonna be you know a very disputed field, and it's I think it's just gonna evolve a lot over the next 24 months.
nice. Nice. Listen, Mario, this was super interesting, man. Good luck. I didn't even know that you have the lending part. Didn't even know about that. So yeah, good luck with that.
But
I'm gonna put all links in the description and below. I don't Twitter, Docs, web app, Mario's Twitter, there's landing page if you have one. I don't even know. I just
yeah,
go
yeah,
directly to
you'll
that.
see it. Like they have like it's
Okay.
on the top menu. But it's great, yeah. But no, thanks for the invite, Chef. Love to chat, and hope we can do it again sometime.
For sure, man. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye,
All right.
guys. See you in the next one. Bye.